Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, Internet. It is I, Tim TK, host of My Silverline Show on Tuesday. Just me today. Mackenzie Wortman may be able to join us later. We're not sure. We have some people recovering from the post-Halloween sickies. Quentin is still on vacation. So I am the person. There we go. Might be a quick one today. And we'll keep it going. This is the Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm Tim TK, writer of Wolf Hunter and several pieces of short fiction, and your regular host of the Tuesday show. And we're talking about superheroes without superpowers. Do superheroes need to have powers? And normally at this point, I'd open it up to the... hello. Normally at this point, I'd open it up to the panel. However, we don't have a panel. So we'll be getting into what I found on the internet, my own personal opinion on, reasons why I think personally superheroes do not need to have powers to be considered superheroes. And if the chatters have any of their own particular input, I'll also take that as well. So first I'll kind of get into what makes a superhero. I think it largely has more so to do with the circumstance that they act in and the quality of action that they perform. So not quality as in like how good is it? Because exactly. Yeah. I agree with that. I think powers aren't what defines them as well. But even if they don't necessarily have superpowers, they're performing actions of a quality that is better than the average person. Hello. Pops fans, how are you doing? So my initial thought this is going to one of my favorites, which is Hawkeye. Does not have superpowers. Is not necessarily the most morally upstanding person. He's very okay with murder when the time calls for it. But he finds himself acting in super, or rather extravagant, circumstances and performs actions that are well beyond your average person's capability in ways that are, superb or exciting to see, to say the least. So I think usually what it comes down to is the circumstances, and if they're performing actions in a particular way. And I think there are people with powers in some comics that are not necessarily superheroes. They're just powered people in a weird situation. Blue Beetle, no powers, can take him out. Yeah, exactly. Blue Beetle does not have any powers of his own. He does have a super suit, and so he can get into like the well, I guess New Blue Beetle has a super suit. Ted Kord, I think, just was very smart. I guess not Robbie Reyes, that's Ghost Rider. But I'm forgetting the name of the current Blue Beetle. Yeah. But yeah, it's very smart. A lot of gadgets. Same thing with Iron Man. In that respect, they don't have their own powers. They do have a super suit, which you could argue, is a super suit considered a form of a power, or is it just wealth plus intellect equals suit? So that's kind of the a weird discussion to have as well. Is, do you define super suits or as a form of power, or are they just an additional circumstance that adds to the quality of action that the hero performs? My internet is also having issues, so this should be an interesting show. This may be a 30-minute one. Exactly. Then you get to point, how far down to go down. Although, to be fair, Hawkeye's bow does not have repulsors and seeker missiles. I think there's even a gag in there that someone else picked up his bow and complained that it wasn't even a proper compound bow. But yeah, I think that super suits, depending on the circumstances, like if it's alien technology, you might consider the power, or if it's some sort of bonding agent like the Venom suit. The Venom suit, some sort of like alien symbiote that bonds to its host. But it does have tech-based arrows. That's correct, yeah. But if it's just a technological improvised thing, then that any normal person could pick up would be not considered superpowered. M. Night Shyamalan did a play on what a superhero and a villain was in Unbreakable. Didn't have ours. Yes, yeah, that entire trilogy was interesting. I'm saying hi, so I'm sure you can talk about something in my work. Yes. Mackenzie might be joining us, however, she's currently working on something, so this might be a shorter show today. Yeah, I liked Unbreakable. It's very interesting. Is just what happens with people who think they are more than they are. I thought Glass was kind of weak, at least in the ending, but a fun choice nonetheless. And an example also of that, I classify Unbreakable as being a form of hero, and that he was in a weird circumstance and performed. Well, it isn't even that quality of actions. He might just be a dude who's good at fighting. It wasn't quite like Nightwing or something who's still doing like backbreaking acrobatics. It was literally just a guy who shoulder checks people through windows. Yes. Was that? I think it might have been Marvel because they're based out of New York. I believe Marvel did a 9/11 issue and that vein, and that was really good. Psychoblast. I am unfamiliar. Let me look them up. There we go. That's who isn't a hero of her own thing, but powers. Okay. Interesting. Well, yeah, I can tell the wiki just kind of says that they died, so assuming they existed for a little bit and then did not, which sounds about right. For that topic. Let's see. I can find the issues, but there's not a whole lot of info on them online. But yeah, there's Robin from Batman. Oh, no problem. Robin does not have any powers, and so Robin, Nightwing, Red Hood, they're all kind of classic examples. The entire Batverse is classic examples of this entire subject. And Batman being one of the few people to have consistently beat Superman, i.e., the incarnation of superpowers. Really is the case in point for superheroes not needing to have powers. Although Batman does have his own slew of neuroses, so maybe if you're neurotic enough, you develop your own form of superpowers. A similar vein of those characters, but on the other side of the big two, you have people like Daredevil, Elektra. If you want to, let me pull something else up here. No. Trying to find some other examples in the indies. You consider Daredevil superpowered? I mean, he does have enhanced senses in a way, but I guess it depends on who's writing and who's illustrating him. Because depending on the writer, he goes from being really good at hearing to having radar vision. So I think that really depends on the writer and how the illustrator chooses to illustrate that. Okay, here's some other ones I was looking for. People like Sage, and Sophie Brown. I don't think the Question has any powers, and the Question is one of my favorites just because he is a really weird dude, and now a really weird woman as well. Both very weird people. I love it. American Flag. I believe American Flag does not. Yeah, the first Grendel is powerless, which is also a cool weird detective story, and makes me kind of sad that the Netflix show got canned. But hopes for future. Right. American Flag is not powered. It's just a weird science fiction story. Let's see. And then speaking of flags, well, I mean, if you're gonna have superheroes without powers, you got to have super villains without powers, right? Because it's, you put more of the emphasis on the character himself. So if you have a really strong character, they're going to make up for not even powers, and then we can turn this into my own writing spiel, and that people get so caught up on writing powers that they don't actually write a good character. Yes. Okay. Depending on the timeline, on the Marvel side, Jack Flag is also powerless, but later on is given a super injection. But starting out, he is just a martial artist and athlete. Lex Luthor, exactly. A lot of the classic Batman gallery as well are people who just have very bad intentions and the money to follow through. Kingpin, of course, yes. Kingpin being one of my favorites, and also having two of the best on-screen performances, being the only good part of that awful Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio being great in the current run of Marvel shows. Kingpin also had a really interesting arc in Battle World, Secret Wars. Or was it? Oh no, was it? Oh man, now I'm blacking out. Was it that, or was it something else? I'm trying to remember. No, it's House of M. That's what I was thinking of, where they have essentially Shadow World, New York, and Kingpin kind of takes it over. Am I thinking about it right? I'm out of it. I hate when books to family add power. You need a hard set of powers. No plot convenience. Yes. Yeah. If you're going to be, when a character gets powers, that needs to make sense in some way. Like Jack Flag getting the crap beat out of him and getting an injection forced in him. Makes sense. But if it's just someone who wakes up one day and suddenly has a new set of powers, or the powers increased in some way without any sort of character development, no training or outside changes happened, that'll lead to that. That's when it feels like they're just scrambling for something to push the character forward to try and make them interesting, rather than actually writing something interesting for the character to do. I mean, it's weird talking about this, but I mean, people who had that complaint with Soups for forever, going from leaping and being super strong to flying and having laser eyes. Eventually, they go back and retcon it and give him time training and all that to actually develop those powers. But that was the one of the ongoing complaints that my father has. He felt like they just gave Superman a new power every other writer. We have this one first. We say adding well, maybe after that tricks. Yeah, adding one or two, like in natural development, like if someone has something that would, naturally lead into another power down the line, like again, brain blanking, but or if you have someone whose powers are all based around magic or relics, like you have a magic type character and you gave them new powers by having them go on storylines to gather relics that would give them additional powers. That makes sense. But if it is just a random wake up, you can do one as a gag and it actually ends up playing out well. But yeah, it does get ridiculous. Would you say Poison Ivy has powers due to her chemistry knowledge? She can concoct deadly toxins. I think Poison Ivy also falls into that depends on the writer. Now she definitely feels like she has powers and that it's almost like telepathic control of plants, the amount of control she can offer. But if it's just, depending on the writer, if they specify that it's strong use of pheromones and toxins that it can cause vines to attract to different things or whatever. Yeah. But any more recently, it's definitely felt like she's just had full mental control of plants. I can see Spider-Man got super strength. Yeah, that was a little interesting, but I like when Spider-Man that did have a good retcon when that they explained it as it's not typical human strength, it's related to a spider's proportional strength. And then, spiders and ants are oddly strong proportionally for how their size is. So his strength scale just mimics that. So I like it when, he can hold up the occasional cinder block, but he, isn't holding the entire building over his head. So just enough to save him, but not enough to actually, be in contention with other super strength people in the the Marines. Shang-Chi's a great fighter. With the Marines, kind of like that. And that it's not really Shang-Chi getting a power. Essentially, it's him getting the reins as a part of that. But he's already a hero without powers and was for a long time, which I thought was really good. I really like him as a character because of that. The fact that he's already a strong person, and then they give him a natural storyline that leads to him getting super strength. When they get to adding your pulsar beams to that, that's when it gets to be, it depends on how cool it is. The cool factor, you can forgive almost anything, but the repulsor beams can sometimes seem a little out of nowhere. That's my train of thought. I was going somewhere else. Wow, completely lost where I was going. Very good. Very good. The arrow from Malibu technically had powers, but he was basically as powerful as Overqueen. Yeah. And being from Silverline, we have a very close tie with Malibu, being that most of our staff is formerly Malibu. But yeah, that's also a weird situation where they're maybe a bit underpowered of a hero. But I can see that a lot of people in the Silver Age. There's a lot of weird things that happened back then. with Shang-Chi. Kind of going down that same line, you have people like on the DC side, Karate Kid, who's just a guy who knows karate, but he knows a lot of karate. Yes, Roll Men, yeah. Was Thanos about us without the glove? I don't know, Solar. Yes, he was. So I'm the one person I know who has read and still reads the Eternals. Thanos is, essentially, to break it down, he is what happens when a bad Eternal is born, and that's what the Titans were, was a weird mutation of things that they did not like. Honestly, if they perhaps pulled on some of those tines and strings, they could have saved the Eternals movie by making it, interesting. But yeah, so if you can imagine the powers of a science-based demigod, that was Thanos before the glove. Able to exist in the Cancer dimension without dying. Can 1v1 most people, including a few demigods. I think he killed Gilgamesh fairly recently. Are the TMNT superpowered or deformed? Deformed is a weird adjective to throw at them, but I guess technically it is a form of mutation, which is a type of deformation. But yeah, I guess specifically in canon, were given powers greater than even a human, being young turtles, after being hit with some radioactive science goo. So I'd say they technically be superpowered in that it is, genetically baked into them, what makes them as powerful as they are. In that, I guess, they're about the same level as X-Men, in that it may not be the most powerful mutation, but it is a mutation-based power nonetheless. When in doubt, radioactive science goo. Yeah. If you're ever writing a comic and you don't know what to do to create a linchpin for why something is as strong as it is, radioactivity, unnamed science, or unobtainium. Just choose one of three, and there's your material. That's why it's strong. Don't actually do that. That's when you get into the issue of, well, not everyone unending levels of superpowered whatchamahoos. It's because it's all just scaling on top of each other. Unless you're perhaps writing the satire, and then go for the joke. Swing for the fences. Live your best life. Yeah. There you go. I did. Speaking of old hags, reminds me of Baba Yaga. I guess it should be Baba Yaga, is the proper pronunciation. Learned that recently, talking with some Eastern European friends. But I saw a meme the other day of a D&D party running into Baba Yaga, and it's a trailer. It's just like a Jetstream trailer that runs around. So now I want to see a comic where, just whatever hillbilly gets superpowers by getting cursed or blessed by, take your pick, by Baba Yaga. Let's go Spider-Man meets the Trailer Park Boys. Batman 99, the last movie, when Joker fell into the radioactive acid, the game powers for him to be pain. No, I believe that one is a straight radioactivity exposure, and that it just ended up frying his nervous system. I mean, I guess immune to pain it would be part of that if you want to count that as a superpower, but that's more so a medical defect than an actual power. It's more so just severe spinal trauma and nerve damage. Exactly. Yes, it'd be very good. All right. Okay, well, it's been about 30 minutes. I think we established that no superpowers do not need to have powers. Looks like Mackenzie will not be able to join us. So if you guys have any more examples or anything you want to go over or discuss, we can absolutely cover that. If not, we'll call this one short this week and be back next week, hopefully with a fully restored crew. I covered my favorites, Hawkeye. I did like the Green Arrow TV show, but he's still not one of my favorite non-superpowered heroes. I still like Jason Todd a bit more. Does Dr. Fate count? See, that's when you get into like a weird thing of magical relics or whatever also counting. I think if we can discount things that we could have in our real world, so science-based suits that would be somewhat plausible, like Blue Beetle or Iron Man. But I think we have to, by default, we have to include magical relics in that's some sort of superpower because, as far as we know, magic does not exist unless the Illuminati is doing stuff behind our backs and we don't know. But he does kind of whole thing that he was not necessarily his power he's giving, but rather a power that was bestowed upon him, and the power itself is the hero that passes down. But I mean, you can also say the same thing for like Doctor Strange. Even more so given that Doctor Strange recently-ish, and it's been a while since I read him, so it's recent to me, lost his magic and had to go back and gather a bunch of artifacts in order to get it back. And during that time, we had a really fun run where Loki was the Sorcerer Supreme, so I definitely recommend reading that one because that is a fun 12-issue run. Was that? I can't remember the writer now. Again, my brain is blanking on me today. It's all right. Donny Cates. Cats? It's an E after it's a Cates. Donny Cates was the one who wrote that line, yes. I believe that's during a time when he's writing like 18 books a month. So, but he maintained quality. It's very good. All right. Well, I think that was a solid 35 minutes, 40-minute outing. Sorry about the lack of show, but I believe we have substantially answered the question. Thoughts, just doing it yourself, but keeping the backstory, create a whole new story. Asian woman, Flash. I mean, changing the backstory, I think, is usually always preferred because then you end up creating a character that is uniquely that representing that group. The Little Mermaid. It's traditionally German, so I think no one really cares because even the original Disney adaptation wasn't correct. If you want to get down to like the nitty gritty of it, but also it's a mermaid, so kind of who cares? Asian woman or Latino Flash. I mean, if they made new characters to fill those roles, or if they're just casting for screen because screen can be its own thing, I don't care. It's a fish who cares, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I hope we can get the panel together next week. But yeah, my opinion on most things is they're fictional characters. I don't care. But also from my perspective, where most heroes have looked like me for most of my life. So yeah, but I don't need to see a mirror of me's all the time. I will say, really bad representation. Oh god. DC has been traditionally good with Latino representation, but their Mexican American Heritage Month this year was absolutely atrocious. Those covers, they would have been better just not doing those covers. They essentially just boiled Mexican culture down to food, and that's it. Hey. All right, I'm going to end the show before we get into too much trouble. But yeah, we'll be back next week, hopefully with a full crew. Let me get our subject to those so we can have notes prepared. Where did that chat go? There it is. Server Tuesday, we are doing how superheroes impact society, the modern hero pop culture. So we're going to be talking about, obviously, the importance of the MCU, if the DCU is going to be turned into really anything, but just how much the current zeitgeist has been impacted by resurgence of comics culture in a way. So yeah, that'll be our topic for next week. Hopefully see you guys then. Until that time, make mine Silverline. We have the thing somewhere. There it is.
Hey, I'm Pat Broderick. Make mine Silverline.